Every 3 years, cavers from across the country gather to practice for a deep underground rescue. A stretcher with a volunteer is hauled through tight spaces, up shafts and through kilometres of meandering corridors. Shortly after hauling a stretcher up a short drop, Michael Brewer had fallen off a climb and landed on a rock submerged in a shallow pool. Running on adrenaline, he limped, crawled and dragged his way out. The first one is a caver inside the cave using a Mickey phone and talking into it, and I was trying to capture the drama of what it's like to be on a practice rescue or on a real rescue, and you know, the person's concentrating, they're talking to someone nearby them, and it really captures that drama. Funnily enough, they're actually just joking around in the shot and ordering a pizza, but it still worked well. The second shot was hauling a stretcher up a climb about 3 meters tall, and it's incredibly difficult to move a stretcher through a cave. It takes a big team of people, and I think this shot really captures it. Everyone's working together. Actually, one of the cavers in this at the top with the red helmet is the person who fell off the drop shortly after and broke his leg. The third shot is a caver going through a tight squeeze, and this is actually Michael Brewer. He's got a compound fracture, so a piece of bone actually sticking out of his leg, protruding into his gumboot, and he's working his way through this cave for 5 hours. And one of the things that had happened is when I started this shoot, I'd asked the person organising the practice rescue if I could do it, and they said, yep, fine, but if there's a real rescue, you have to put your camera down. And so it's a real dilemma what to do, you know, after he broke his leg, and every photographer I'm sure would do the same. I ignored that advice and took the photos. One of the shots when we got outside the cave, actually unbandaging his wound, so he took his bandages off and exposed the bone, the compound fracture, and you know, it was an awful lot of pain. He gritted his teeth and then he re-bandaged it himself. One memory from that night I'll never forget is helping to push Michael through a body tight squeeze. As he lifted his leg, a mixture of blood and water poured out of his gumboot. We suggested re-bandaging his wound, but Michael Brewer, a doctor by trade, replied, nonsense, a little blood goes a long way. Second last shot is two cavers leaning on the police car at 5 in the morning. They look exhausted. One person's got their eyes shut, just about asleep, and they're trying to stay warm by, you know, hugging that bonnet and putting their hands in front of the light. And it just that single shot just tells a real story. The last shot is kind of the ending shot, and it's Michael getting carried onto the Westpac rescue helicopter, and it works really well. Closes the story. The rescue's finished, and Michael's heading off to recover, a recovery that would take months. Everyone's pretty much a photographer these days, but there's a real shortage of people with new stories to tell. And if you've got a good fresh story, then you've got a great photo story.